As Sigal said, I have the honor of helping lead the Aviv Foundation, which is grounded in an idea that there are existential and seemingly intractable challenges facing the US and facing Israel. And we try to invest in people who have hope and grit and fortitude and bring innovative strategies to address those very historic challenges. Like many of you, we are deeply troubled and concerned by the challenges in Israel that seem to be growing in exponentiality as well as complexity. And also, like many of you, we're inspired by these challenges, that these challenges are being confronted by people who are showing perseverance and ingenuity. They're not just withdrawing into themselves and into their families, though certainly they wouldn't be faulted if they did so. Instead, they're drawing on this mix of personal experiences and national events, international events, and a belief in Israel that the country can not just survive, but hopefully be something better. We're inspired by the best of Israel that we're seeing, and we're inspired by the best of Israelis that we're seeing. I really appreciate Sigal's data. There's this surge of new civic leaders, people primarily in their 20s and 30s and 40s who have been disproportionately impacted by the challenges of the last few years. They are reservists. They are families of reservists. They're parents of children who are out of school for day after day after day. They're Nova survivors. They're families of hostages. They're injured, and so much more. They are a generation of people who are responding to the urgencies of this moment, and also through their actions are showing that we can't rely on the same answers to try to address Israel's long-term existential challenges. At Aviv, we're trying to meet this moment as best we can. And while we've funded in Israel since the very beginning of the foundation 10 years ago, over the last 2 years, in 2024 and 2025, over 40% of our funding in Israel went to new efforts or new organizations. Our speakers today are emblematic of this shift. They have stepped up. They have done so in ways they could never have predicted. They're weaving new ideas and new platforms, new approaches to addressing both emergent and long-standing social problems. I personally find their stories so moving and so incredibly inspiring. You may notice they are not here. Naming the awkward, I'm standing here alone on the stage. We should have 4 lovely, cushy chairs, and instead you get me behind a podium. And there was an option to just not do this panel, but I appreciate that we are plowing forward. We are going to have the conversation anyway. We're making the best of a difficult situation. I wish they were here in person. Of course, if they receive alerts, they may have to leave the Zoom room immediately. I'm just honored that they are here with us and appreciate you all putting up with the awkwardness of having to stare at me for a little while as opposed to staring at them. So let's start this conversation. I'm going to introduce them with their full bios, and then we'll dive into some questions. First, Miriam Amedi. Miriam is a social activist and is the CEO of the Reservist Wives Forum, which advocates for, supports, and amplifies the voices of reservist families since October 7th. She is married to singer and actor Yonatan Amedi. Yonatan is suffering in a long-term rehab journey from injuries he served while serving in the reserves during the war after October 7th. And Miriam speaks from a place of translating that personal experience to deepened public engagement and a commitment to supporting and representing the community of reservist families. Second, we have Maor Tsabari. Maor is a poet and a translator and a philosopher. He received the Israeli Ministry of Culture Prize for Poetry, the Hebrew University's Negev Prize, and the Rothschild Foundation's Prize for his contributions to victims of war. He speaks as a philosopher, but also as a former officer in the Duvduvan unit, and is the founder of initiatives for the rehabilitation of wounded veterans. And third, Yonatan Shamriz. Yonatan is a social activist who co-founded the Kumu movement, which is a national grassroots initiative created by families affected by October 7th. Through Kumu, Yonatan works to cultivate new leadership and rebuild trust between citizens and the state. You may remember the tragic story of Yonatan's younger brother, Alon, who was kidnapped from Kibbutz Kfar Aza and was later tragically killed by IDF soldiers after managing to escape captivity. Since then, Yonatan has become a prominent public voice calling for responsibility and leadership and renewal in Israeli society, turning a commitment to turn his personal loss into civic action and help shape a more accountable and hopeful future for Israel. So please welcome them. Thank you. So let's dive in. I'm going to ask everyone the first question, and we'll go through perhaps Miriam, then Maor, and then Yonatan. You can answer in kind. Just tell us, how did October 7th change your life? What were you doing before, and how did you pivot? If each of you can take a couple minutes to answer, that would be great. Miriam, why don't we start with you?
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and I wish I could be there in person, but as we all know, Israel and the United States had important things to do. I want to take us all back 2.5 years to October 7th, that horrible day when the worst nightmare we could ever imagine happened. We're sitting at home, listening to the news, seeing the videos, seeing our brothers and sisters slaughtered, seeing them kidnapped, and it took very few minutes until Idan decided he's recruiting to reserve, and he packed his bag and he put on the uniform, and before closing the door I hugged him very strongly and I wished him good luck and said I'm proud of him, that he's choosing the country before choosing himself and his security. And I closed the door, and the minute I closed the door, a fear entered me. It's something between, I would say, the heart and the stomach, something here in the middle. And this fear, I carried it with me for 93 days. It's a fear because I knew this war is different, it's more dangerous, and in war, terrifying things happen. And on January 8th, I got a call from an unknown number. I answered. It was very short and direct, and it said, "Hello, Miriam. This is Effie from the IDF. Idan was severely injured. In a few minutes, officers will come to your doorstep to take you to the hospital." And that is a call I will remember for the rest of my life. When we were about to discharge from the hospital, Idan decided to do a press conference to say thank you for the people of Israel that prayed for him and wanted him to get well. And after the press conference, I got dozens of messages from women I did not know telling me about the reserve of their spouses, about the injury of their spouses, and how they are dealing with it, asking for me for advice and help. And that was the moment, that was my pivot, understanding that I have no more privilege to be a private person, that I need to, I would say, use my personal story to raise the voice of the reservist families and wives, and that I have a zchut in this time to take this power I have and lead. And this is when I decided to become the CEO of the Reservist Wives Forum.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Maor.
Hi, shalom everyone. Well, I will join Miriam that I was hoping to see you face to face, panim el panim. But Adam, to be honest, I think that October 7 didn't change my life path. I would say it was not a turning point, it was a moment of clarity. It reminded me that the story of Israel is not a closed book or finished. It's still being written, and we are the ones holding the pen. Before that day, I was already tied to Israel in the field, in research, in writing, in rebuilding soldiers' lives after trauma. In 2018, I lost one of my soldiers in my hand during operational activity in El Amari. And that loss led me to create an organization for physical and mental rehabilitation. Since then, unfortunately, those organizations have grown to a national proportion. So I think that October 7 sharpened what I already knew. Survival alone is not enough. A nation survives trauma only when it rebuilds life, morally, socially, spiritually. Power wins battles, meaning sustains society. My mission is not only to defend Israel, it is also to help Israelis rebuilding themselves. I would say maybe not only nefesh, but neshama.
Beautiful, thank you. And Yonatan.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. I want to join to Miriam and Maor for the wishes, and hopefully next year invite us as well to San Diego, and we'll come to meet you. October 7th really changed my life path. I used to live in Kibbutz Kfar Aza for over 30 years. I married over there. I built my house over there. My whole family lived there. I was the eldest among my two brothers and one sister. And the 7th of October, my wife wakes me up in 6:30, and we rush to the safe room, and for many hours, I'm holding the safe room handle door while there are so many terrorists inside the kibbutz. I got messages from all around the kibbutz members and understand that we are in a big problem. And my brother Ido fought in the Kitat Konenut, the civil security team, and managed to survive. Half of the security team from Kfar Aza that are my best friends are died early in the morning. And in 10 in the morning, alone my brother sent me a message that terrorists go inside his house. And I immediately understand that this is going to be the last time I'm going to speak with my brother. And I was with my pregnant wife and a 2-year-old daughter in the safe room. And I could done nothing. And I sent him a message that I love him and he's strong. And this was the last time we spoke. But because I was with my wife and my daughter, I had to keep the environment calm as I can inside the safe room. My daughter Yali will celebrate birthday that day. She was born on 7th of October 2021. And we've been in the safe room for more than 20 hours. And then the IDF managed to rescue us. And I thought Alon is dead. And we wait like 2 weeks to understand what's about Alon. And after 2 weeks, the IDF told us that he's been taken hostage and he's alive. And then I started my journey. It was too short, to be honest, to try to save him and the other hostages. And I flew to DC, spoke with congressmen, senators, and everything that I could. But after 2 months, Alon was killed by the IDF. They mistakenly identify him as a terrorist with Yotam Chaim El Samer El Talalka, Zichram Livracha. And 3 weeks after my son was born, we called him Lavi, and his nickname is Lavi Liochel. If you know Hebrew, it's and when Lavi was born, I looked at Lavi and Yali, my daughter, and I asked myself, what is my mission now? How can I build Israel? What is my role to build, to fix Israel for them, to build them a country that they will not need to suffer even 1% from what I will suffer. And after 1 month, I established Kumu, that his sole purpose is to build new leadership, new DNA into Israel leadership.
It's beautiful. I could spend a half an hour talking with each of you about your personal stories. I find them incredibly inspiring, so thank you. Miriam, maybe we could just focus on you for a second. This moment has hit Israelis in a different way than other moments, in which people are being moved to lead in ways that other tragedies that have befallen Israel have not been moving people to the same degree. And I'm wondering if you can reflect a little bit about what makes this moment different for so many Israelis.
I think that there was something on October 7th that was so horrible, so terrifying, that it just waked us up. It showed us that there is no more time to wait, and that we need to create the future we want to see right now. There is no more time to wait for somebody else to do that for us, and that we need to do that right now. And I think the forum, the Reservists Wise Forum, is an amazing story of that. It's one of the strongest stories of the country in the past 2.5 years. It started from an anonymous post of a woman, reservist spouse, writing that she feels invisible, that she feels alone. She doesn't know who's supposed to take care of her or what she's supposed to do. And she wants to change that. She believes that this has to change because this war is different from everything we knew before. And has to change if is there any other women that want to join her. And 14 women came together from all across the country, not knowing each other, all of them mothers to young children, all of them with husbands in reserve, in combat. And instead of sitting at home and taking care only for their families, they went outside. They went to the Knesset, to the parliament, to the media to talk about the needs of the reservist families. And from those 14 women, we're today 20,000 women community representing 100,000 families fighting for their rights, advancing the rights of reservist families. And I think this is the moment we all understood, our generation, that there is nobody else to lean on or to wait for, and we need to create what we want to see the future for our children. So each one of us here took some kind of role, if it's cooking for soldiers or doing something else. And in the forum, we decided to build something that can last here for years for the reserve our families will need to do in the next years.
Amazing. Miriam, I appreciate how you're grounding in the moment of October 7th and what has happened since. Maor, can you telescope out a little bit? What have you learned about Israel? What have you learned about Israelis over the last few years?
Well, usually to see the bigger picture, you look from above, right? I think that here, this time, we need to look from below at the people themselves. For the fourth generation, Israel was always been, we took it for granted. I think that we forget how fragile it is. We forget that its existence is never guaranteed. And from that point, I think history reminds us, like the first temple fell when people took things for granted. The second temple fell as well. October 7, I think, brought back that exilic awareness, I would say. For the first time, this generation saw that walls are illusions until they become battlefields. But yet, we are also carry the power of the state, its great army, its institutions, and its voice in the world. I think that that tension between strength and moral vigilance defines us. Suddenly, certainties crumbled, political debates faded. People stopped asking who is right and began asking who are we responsible for. Out of that collapse came humility and shared ownership. For a moment, we saw reality as the founders once did. America that must be guarded, cherished, and rebuilt continuously, again and again. Now, with humility and responsibility together, we have the chance to rebuild Israel, not only physically, but also morally, spiritually. In a sense, I would say that we are the new founders seeing through the eyes of the first generation.
It's beautiful. I appreciate the anchoring in the values of what it means to be Israeli in a different way today than perhaps in the past. So, Yonatan, I then want to ask you to help us link that forward, moving forward. What does that mean for that commitment to civic engagement mean? What is the greatest opportunity that provides, and what would it take to sustain this inspiration that so many hold to lead moving into the future?
Okay, so I know that you want to take us forward, but we need to always come back to October 7. And the huge trauma of October 7 caused a complete loss of the trust between the public and the state. But from this crisis, we also saw an extraordinary civic awakening. And the people of Israel proved to be the strongest force we have. The power of solidarity in Israel society is the strongest thing that can secure our future. And on October 7, we saw citizens saving citizens, and our unity as a society proved to be the strongest resource we have. And now we entered a reality where the only thing that truly worked was the people themselves. The people of Israel clothed me and my family, fed us, gave us shelter, protected us, and fought for us when the leaders were nowhere to be found. And after October 7th, a new generation began to step forward. The young generation is now calling to build a new leadership that comes from society itself. And those people were never had political aspiration before, but now understand that they must be part of it. And I think it's our time to take control on our generation, to take a civic responsibility, and we need good people to enter public service and more people willing to stand up and be part of change. The national mission now is to rebuild the trust between the state and its citizen. And it's also a day that reminds us that lack of leadership and the lack of responsibility. And it's a day that a new commitment was born to lead Israel to a much better future. And this is not what we wanted, but it was forced by the October 7th, and now it's our duty.
Wonderful. Thank you for stepping up. Yes. So the three of you are speaking to a room of philanthropists who care about Israel. They are all optimists, because you can't be a philanthropist unless you're an optimist. These are people who are seeing that the solutions of the past are not going to be sufficient for the moment, and they want to make a difference. So I'm going to invite you to give us all some advice. What's a kernel of wisdom, a piece of advice you would offer to this esteemed room? And we'll keep the same order. Miriam, why don't we begin with you?
I'm going back a bit, and I'll say above the heads of Jews entering concentration camp Buchenwald, there was a sentence saying, each man to its own. They wanted to tell us, the Nazis, that this is the destiny this is what we deserve. And Hamas tried to tell the same thing, like this is what you deserve. The idea of the Jewish state is not relevant. Here is how we break the security. Here is what you deserve. And I think what I believe happened since October 7th is understanding that the destiny of the Jews living here in Israel and Jews in diaspora is united. We have the same destiny. And what I want to say or to give here is to understand that we want you to be involved in what is happening here in Israel, not only in fixing what is wrong now or needs to be taken care of, but also thinking about the future, thinking what we want to build and what we want to leave for the children. And in order to do that, we need to work on infrastructures and really understand how we're building a new foundation of the future, how we're changing things from the core in order for them to be able to give us the things we want to rise in a decade or more, and just to be able to put the effort and things that can be relevant in the years to come.
Beautiful. Thank you. Maor?
Well, about optimism, you just remind me that Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel once said that I'm an optimist against my better judgment. So I think that Israel stands at a critical point. I mean, recent trauma, war, loss of trust, internal division is not only security or political, it is also intellectual and spiritual. Reality keeps shifting. There is no single solution to invest in. So my advice is simple: invest in people, not in solutions. If someone offers you one answer for everything, don't invest. What Israel needs are people who can hold complexity, think differently, and imagine morally. I think that the greatest danger after trauma is not weakness, it is the loss of moral imagination. And this is why philanthropy matters, because it's cultivate leaderships. Leaders who understand that Israel's goals was never power for its own sake, but the building of society where strength protect dignity. Investing in the next generation is really the best investment we can make. They will carry the story forward creatively, morally. If we succeed, Israel's story will not be only a miracle of a survival, but also a model of a moral and resilient society.
Beautiful. Thank you. And Yonatan, please.
Yeah, so if I want to be bluntly, give all your money to Kumu. But just kidding. So I want to really take it from Maor's side. He said it perfectly about to create and help Israelis imagine. And it just remind myself, in Kumu we are doing so many projects with the draft now and educational in the north and in the south. And one of the most project that we known by, it's the memorial ceremony of the 7th of October of the families. And the first one was broadcast more than 250 channels around the world. Was one of the highest rating in Israel history, I think. And I think that what was the most unique in this ceremony is that we able to bring all Israeli society into one stage. And you saw Haredim sitting in the front row, and they heard women sing a song, and the sky didn't fall. An Arabic woman that her husband killed in the Nova Festival trying to rescue people was speaking in Arabic in the ceremony. And I think that the thing that was the most unique in the ceremony is that we've been able to show Israel and Israelis what our society could look like. They start to imagine, and I think the one that they lack the most in Israel is political imagination and societal imagination. People cannot imagine different things, and I think we need, as Maor said, to invest in people, in new ideas, in the new generation, in new leaders, in new initiatives, and we need to build, better leaders from society that will take place inside the government and everywhere else.
Amazing. So I find it very instructive to hear all three of you are challenged to think about leaders, to think about ideas in a different way, to perhaps invest in efforts that don't have clear theories of change, proven leadership, convincing data. I'm taking some inspiration from you around the risks that it takes to do this kind of philanthropy. I think this is one of these moments where philanthropy can be at its best, where we can respond to this moment and with some openness and boldness to try to make a real difference. And I really appreciate the three of your work, your perseverance, and truly what has been an inspiring conversation. So please join me in thanking them for their work, for the lives they lead, and for how they inspire us all. Thank you all.